Howdy baddies! As you might know, tarot cards aren't the only cards that I play with. I play board games and Magic the Gathering too. One common practice found in these environments is the sleeving of cards to protect the game components from damage like banged up edges, from shuffling, or various liquids from other nerds at the table. You might be surprised to hear this, but card sleeves come in a variety of sizes, not just for Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, or Magic the Gathering, but even squares or tarot-sized sleeves. So that brings us to the question of whether we should be sleeving our tarot cards or not. Well, the answer is going to vary greatly depending on your use of the cards, intent, and vibes. I have a few examples of different kinds of tarot decks and whether they should be sleeved. To start, I have this deck from Sonic the Hedgehog. It's the Amy Rose Fortune deck. This is a collectible of sorts. They likely won't make another deck like this in the future. The Amy Rose Fortune deck also doesn't have the same cards as the commonly used Rider-Waite-Smith deck. If I read with it, I'd be learning new meanings for all the cards that don't have a direct relation to the RWS deck. Like sure, lightning cards are the same as swords, fire is the same as wands, water is cups, and rings are pentacles, but the major arcana can be pretty different. When I do readings, no one requests the Amy deck. And if I were to read for Renaissance events, they would want the RWS deck as it's the most familiar, even if it isn't the most period accurate. RWS wasn't made until 1909. And short, while the Amy Rose deck is cool as heck and gorgeous, it's not a deck that will ever see a reading due to its unique cards and gaming themes. I plan to possibly frame the cards and use them as wall art because they're that neat looking. Framing would require adhering them to the frame somehow, and I don't want to damage the cards, in case I do get to use them one day, so I'm sleeving them. Now, let's take something like the RWS Tarot that would get a lot of readings. You might want to sleeve the RWS in order to protect them from multiple readings and shuffling. That'd be fine, but you might also not want to do that. Sleeves are going to add to the overall bulk of the cards, and a tarot deck is already pretty hard to shuffle because of the size. While doing something like a mass shuffle might be easier with sleeves, it'll also be harder due to bigger cards and the thicker cardstock that they have than cards like Magic the Gathering. Even the thinnest tarot sleeves can increase the height of your deck by 50%. This means you'll likely have to prop the cards on the table when you shuffle. Another issue with shuffling you'll experience is reversals. If you sleeve your tarot deck, the top part will have an opening, so when you flip some of them upside down, the openings will get caught with a mass shuffle and might tear the sleeves or make them catch on each other. Then there's another problem of when you put the sleeves on them, it makes the cards more slippery, and static and stuff like that causes them to slide, which means that when you stack them, they'll stack higher and they might slide off. It takes a few shuffles to get rid of that sliding issue. Even if you do find a mass shuffle to be easier, you're still making it harder by using sleeves on a tarot deck at least. If you plan to only read with cards upright, then sleeves will be fine. Another thing you might not think about is with the deck you read with often, using a battered and aged deck provides a little bit more legitimacy to your reads. If someone sees you reading with banged up cards, they know you do a lot of readings, which makes you look more experienced. If you do the readings with one deck, then use one of your more artistically flavorful decks to display the reading like in an online reading, then you shouldn't bother putting the RWS or well-used decks in sleeves. In short, if your deck is one that will be heavily used and is super common like the RWS Tarot, then you shouldn't bother putting them into sleeves. You can always get a new classic RWS deck. They are everywhere. You can walk into a Barnes & Noble, a card shop, or buy a new one on Amazon, no problem. Don't feel like you need to baby an RWS deck. The other issue you might encounter with sleeves is sizing. Tarot decks do have a standard size, and it's around 70mm to 120mm with a sleeve on, but they're also the most likely to come in a large variety of sizes, because they don't have a game associated with them anymore at least, so they're not standard sized. They don't have a standardized sizing, like playing cards might. They may come in playing card sizes, tiny mini decks, the normal tarot size, or like my Woodland Wardens deck, they might be oversized. The Woodland Wardens deck has incredibly rounded corners, it's very thick, and they're not only wider than 70mm, but they're also taller than 120mm. The only size I could find to fit them was too big, and I would have to bend the sleeve back and tape it behind it, and that would not be good for shuffling. That'd be even harder to shuffle, the deck would tip over. This is kind of a bummer because the art of this deck is really good and would be well suited to framing or display, because they're also too large to comfortably shuffle. For my final example is a deck that you don't care about, like a learner's deck, or something like my Mystic Monday's deck. At one time, this overly simplistic art style really appealed to me, but now minimalism has been heavily co-opted by corporations and logos, and now this style feels weirdly corporate to me. It's a deck that I haven't read within years, and it's not one I plan to use again. I don't care for the art anymore either, so this is just going to rot in a cupboard somewhere. No point in protecting them with sleeves, because they will never leave their box. That's it though. It really comes down to whether the deck is for display, will it fit in sleeves, whether they'll be used, and whether it's an easy to find deck. There's even an argument to sleeve a deck you don't use anymore, like say your first ever tarot deck. It's all banged up now and you use a new one. You might sleeve the original to immortalize it, as like a memento of when you were still learning. As with most things, there isn't one answer. If you decide you want sleeves, try Mayday Games' 70mm by 120mm sleeves, but keep in mind the sleeve count. A tarot deck is 78 cards, so you may need to buy at least 2 sleeve packs to sleeve one deck fully, as they can come in sizes from 50 to 75. Some come in 100, not all of them though. If you don't know your deck size, call around at board game shops and ask if they have sleeves for tarot sized cards. If they ask for a specific size, say 70mm by 120mm, and if they do have those, they likely have other sizes as well, so bring your deck with you and compare your cards to their sleeves. Keep in mind, even 70mm ones will still be a snug fit on appropriately sized cards. And that's it. That's all there is to it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later. Stay batty.